In this Versus series, we take a look at two greats of basketball history, as we analyze their skills, achievements, and career totals, ending with the conclusion on who is the greater basketball player overall. Today, our matchup is half man, half amazing Vince Carter versus the man known as T-Mac, Tracy McGrady. One legend built his legacy over a long-lasting career of 22 seasons, while the other played 15 seasons before his career was cut short due to injuries. Starting with the basics, Carter was listed as a 6'6" shooting guard / small forward who typically weighed around 220 pounds. McGrady was listed as a 6'8" shooting guard / small forward who weighed around 210 pounds. We'll compare these two greats with 5 major categories, which sometimes vary in categories depending on positions and play styles. In this video for these two all-time great wings, the categories are scoring, playmaking, efficiency, defense, and accolades. First off, scoring. Both of these stars stood out as elite scorers in the league, as Carter is in 19th place on the all-time scoring list with nearly 26,000 points. He has no scoring titles in his career, and he had a career average of 16.7 points. His career high was 51 points against the Suns in 2000, and he averaged 18.1 points for his career in the playoffs. McGrady is in 71st place on the all-time scoring list with over 18,000 points. He has 2 scoring titles in his career, and he had a career average of 19.6 points. His career high was 62 points against the Wizards in 2004, and he averaged 22.2 points for his career in the playoffs. The similarities between these two greats go on and on, from the fact that they're two of the most athletically gifted players to ever play, to the fact that they're actually second cousins and once teammates in Toronto. Offensively, they were incredibly similar as well, as both players were incredible leapers and finishers above the rim. But although that's their most memorable and highlight-worthy traits, they were also so much more than just that. Both were terrific one-on-one scorers with solid footwork, solid ball handling, and were each incredibly dangerous perimeter shooters. Now before you say it, I'm gonna say it. Comparing career numbers between these two legends can be somewhat misleading, considering how Vince Carter had a much longer and healthier career, playing over 500 games more than McGrady did. Although that increased the gap between their total points, it also hurts Carter when you compare their career averages, considering Carter played well into his 40s, which naturally tanked his career-long averages. We should give Carter credit, because being a durable player and staying healthy for a 22-year career is not easy to do, and that speaks to his incredible body and athleticism. With that being said, let's delve into their peaks a bit and discuss who was the better scorer when they were at their best. As I said before, both players had a very similar skill set. Now Carter's best season offensively was the 2000-2001 season, where he averaged 27.6 points on 46% shooting. McGrady, on the other hand, was the 2002-2003 season, where he averaged a league-leading 32.1 points per game on 45.7% shooting. Not only did he have the better peak average, but he was also the more explosive scorer, as he had significantly more 40-point games and 50-point games than Carter did, despite the fact that he played 500 fewer games. Kobe summed it up pretty well when he described McGrady as the most difficult player he's ever had to guard. He said McGrady had all the skills and athleticism, but he was also 6'9". Now Kobe said 6'9", and McGrady is listed as 6'8", so I'll let you guys decide which is accurate. But regardless, the point remains the same. McGrady's size and length was a huge advantage, as he also had a tremendous 7'2" wingspan. If you value longevity significantly more than peak performance, then you can certainly make the case that Carter was the greater scorer. But for me, I'm a peak performance kind of guy, and at his best, Tracy McGrady was an all-time great offensively. Scoring goes to Tracy McGrady. Second up is playmaking. Now let's be clear, both of these greats had a clear preference of scoring the basketball, but that doesn't mean they weren't at least capable of facilitating. For his career, McGrady averaged 4.4 assists per game, much higher than Carter's 3.1 assists. Now before you assume that the latter half of Carter's career tanked his numbers, consider this. Carter only had one season where he averaged over 5 assists per game, which was the 2008 season with New Jersey. McGrady, on the other hand, had 7 seasons where he averaged at least 5 assists per game, including as high as 6.5 in the 06-07 season. T-Mac was a bit of an underrated passer, as his reliable court vision made him a dual threat on the court. Combine that with his elite scoring ability, and this really isn't much of a fight on this one. Playmaking goes to Tracy McGrady. Third up is efficiency. Now both scorers were pretty similar in terms of shooting efficiency. In fact, both players actually have the exact same field goal percentage for their career at 43.5%. Carter's years in his late 30s and early 40s helped drop his field goal percentage, while McGrady's years dealing with back problems and numerous injuries dropped his efficiency as well. The key factor here is pure shooting ability, and that's an area where Carter has an advantage, as he was a slightly better three-point shooter than Tracy McGrady was. Now both guys were dangerous from distance and were capable of hitting perimeter shots even with a defender in their face. But Carter was just a bit more reliable, as he shot 37.1% from that distance for his career, compared to McGrady's 33.8%. This perimeter shooting skill of Carter's allowed him to be useful even in his later years as a role player, as he could help spread the floor since the defense could never comfortably leave him open. It also made him reliable down the stretch. In many situations where a three-pointer was needed, he quite often delivered. On top of all of that, he was also a more reliable free throw shooter, shooting 79.8% compared to McGrady's 74.6%. Efficiency goes to Vince Carter. Next up is defense. This was an area where neither player was ever considered among the elites of the league, as neither Carter or McGrady made a single all-defense team appearance. At their peaks, they had very similar numbers in terms of blocks and steals. Both incredibly electrifying athletes who could make a highlight defensive play at any given moment, but were just average on-ball defensive players. You could argue in McGrady's favor considering he had the height and length on Carter, but really that means nothing unless you do something with it. Whether it's from their career numbers, peak numbers, lack of defensive accolades, or just from what I remember on the eyeball test, it's really hard for me to make a distinction between the two. I'm interested to hear your thoughts in the comments if you have a different conclusion than me, but as for me, defense is a tie between these two wings. Last on the list of categories is accolades, and each of these legends had a few of them. Carter won 0 league MVPs. He made 8 All-Star teams, 2 All-NBA teams, and was the 1999 Rookie of the Year. In his 22 seasons, he averaged 16.7 points, 4.3 rebounds, 3.1 assists, 1 steal, and 0.6 blocks on 53.6 true shooting percentage. McGrady also had 0 league MVPs. He made 7 All-Star teams, 7 All-NBA teams, and won 2 scoring titles. He was also the 2001 Most Improved Player. In his 15 seasons, he averaged 19.6 points, 5.6 rebounds, 4.4 assists, 1.2 steals, and 0.9 blocks on 51.9 true shooting percentage. Ultimately, despite their similarities, I don't think this comparison is all that close, but I can see you giving the nod to either player, all depending on how you look at it. If longevity is a huge factor for you, being able to stay healthy and impact the game over a long period of time, which translates to better career totals, then Vince Carter is the choice for you. But if you're like me and put more emphasis on who was the better player when they were in their prime, the guy who was able to more strongly impact the game in a variety of ways, then Tracy McGrady is your guy. That's why I personally select Tracy McGrady as the greater player on the all-time list. To me, when they were at their peak, McGrady was just the more dynamic player and brought more things to the table, and some things that weren't even covered among my selected categories, like how McGrady was a slightly better rebounder as well. It's hard to go wrong with either of these guys, as they were each some of the most exciting players to watch in all of NBA history. Let me know in the comments section who you think is the better player, Vinsanity or T-Mac. Thanks for watching as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.